Hey, how's it going, everyone? Welcome to Shifting Lanes. My name is Hanson. Thanks for tuning into this video. And for this one, you find me sitting in the 2021 Volkswagen Arteon. And I want to share with you my likes and dislikes about the sedan from Volkswagen so that you have a better idea before you buy. And make sure you stick around all the way till the end to hear my overall recommendations. And if you haven't already, please consider hitting that subscribe and notification bell button so that you can be notified anytime we make a new video. And for this video, I want to start with the outside first because the Arteon makes a really bold statement with its exterior design. This is the best looking Volkswagen you can buy today, and it makes the other Volkswagen models look like bland, cheap cars that you can find in Grand Theft Auto games. The Arteon's face doesn't have much resemblance to the rest of the Volkswagen models aside from the VW logo. For the front bumper, I love how the headlights look like they're an extension of the grille, making the grille look wider and bigger without being in your face about it like the new BMWs. I also love how the hood seems to drape over the front bumper. Combine that with the sharp creases along the hood, this design gives off that furrowed brow, angry look, a design theme that's missing from the rest of the Volkswagen lineup. The daytime running lights also look decent, and it gives the Arteon a ton of character at night. Car brands have been using daytime running lights as a great branding tool, and it's an easy way to identify cars from a distance. BMWs have been doing it with their angel eyes, Lexus has their L-shaped LEDs, and Genesis has the double horizontal bars. If this LED design is where Volkswagen is headed, I don't mind it at all. Moving on down, you'll find some functional vents, and I like how Volkswagen has designed the colored portions to spiral inwards. From the front, it looks like this Arteon's face has tusks on it, giving it a more threatening display. Now overall, I love the front bumper design, and I much prefer the R-line trims over the more plain SE trim. If you go with the SE, you'll lose out on the horizontal LED bars and the more aggressive looking chin. Moving around the side, I love how the front fender mates up to the hood. I think it looks a bit like the first gen Audi R8 where the hood terminates right at the wheel arch. The fake fender vents looks a bit cheesy, but it helps break up the monotony that is the profile of the Arteon. Now the straight character lines along the length of the car and the chrome trims highlight that austere traditional German styling. I do like the wheels a lot. These are the 19-inch wheel offering from the SEL R-line. Now if you get the SEL Premium R-line, you'll get the 20-inch version. But I actually like the 19-inch version a bit more. You'll find that spiral theme that can also be found in the front bumper. Finally, rounding out back, you'll find the Sportback design similar to the Audi A5. It's a good functional look that gives the car better rear headroom and better aerodynamics. Now the rear end looks a bit more plain relative to the head-turning front bumper, but what I do like is that the exhaust trim is somewhat functional. You can look through it and actually find exhaust tips, unlike other Volkswagens like the Atlas and the Atlas Cross Sport. On those cars, the exhaust trim is completely decorative, and I consider that to be one of the biggest automotive design sins. All things considered, the Volkswagen Arteon is such a good-looking sedan, and the exterior design alone is a good enough reason to buy the Volkswagen Arteon. Now moving to the inside, if you've been in other Volkswagens before, you're gonna feel right at home here. This is traditional Volkswagen. There are so many straight and angular lines and I feel like you could build furniture from these straight edges. I think it looks very simple and it might just be on the plain and boring side. Now there are a lot of decent tech in here though, and that's one of the reasons to get the Arteon R-Line. First of all, you get this 8-inch touchscreen. It's a pretty decent display that looks and feels pretty high quality, and I like how responsive it is in general. There's also Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which you could connect wirelessly via Wireless App Connect. If you want to connect via cables, then you're going to have to buy some USB Type-C cables, and there are 2 USB-C connections in the armrest. This touchscreen also has a proximity sensor, so it can actually sense your hand when you approach closer. And that'll actually show more menu options. And there's also the added gesture control. You basically just have to put your hand in the right sweet spot so that you could slide between different pages. This doesn't work all the time, and I think it's just a little bit gimmicky. And moving on down, you'll find the HVAC controls. There are no buttons. These are all touch-sensitive panels, and it's kind of configured a little bit awkwardly. And when you're parked, you kind of have to sneak your hand around the shifter, which is kind of annoying. But what I hate the most about this is the glossy black panel, and this can easily show fingerprints, and after a while, it can look pretty grimy. Microfiber cloth should be enough to keep this clean and tidy. I would put that somewhere in your car within easy reach. Moving on to the driver's perspective, this Volkswagen Arteon comes with Volkswagen's digital cockpit, and I love fully digital instrument clusters. I think they look really good and makes the car feel a bit more luxurious. I think Volkswagen's design is pretty classy and clean, and you can toggle between views to show different gauge styles, or you can switch to a single window view where you can get a large display of your navigation. Now this is my favorite setup. As for the steering wheel, this is where I really dislike the Arteon. The steering wheel buttons you'd normally find in other cars is instead a single large plastic button on each side. Now the effort to push this button is higher to the point where it can be a bit uncomfortable. Now the volume and seek buttons also act as a touch sensitive button, so it can act as a slider, so you don't have to keep pressing it. The problem here is, though, if you're moving your fingers around, you can unintentionally change or press buttons that you didn't intend to. And on top of that, the black glossy finish, just like the HVAC controls and the infotainment screen, can easily smudge and looks dirty if you're not on top of it. What I do like about the steering wheel, though, is this button over here, and I'll talk about it a little bit later on. As for the rest of the interior, the Nappa leather seats feel pretty decent, and the stitching adds a small touch of luxury. And the customizable ambient lighting makes it feel more special when driving at night. The Arteon certainly feels more luxurious compared to the rest of their lineup. Now the second row is nothing to write home about, but there is a decent amount of legroom, and I like how you can easily access the hatch area after folding down the armrest. As for the hatch area, it's fairly spacious. This is the benefit of the Sportback design. You get more utility out the back. This is almost as practical as some compact crossovers, so anyone thinking about buying crossovers just for the utility, remember that these sedans, hatchbacks, and sportbacks can sometimes offer more, and they're a whole lot more fun to drive. And speaking of driving, the Arteon is actually pretty fun to drive. The steering feel is light and it feels precise. The ride quality is also pretty decent, and it handles back road curves just fine. In the power department, the 2.0-liter turbo 4-cylinder outputs 268 horsepower and 258 pound-feet of torque. Given the nearly 4,000-pound curb weight, the Volkswagen Arteon can feel a bit lazy, especially when you really mash on the gas pedal. This engine's attached to an 8-speed automatic transmission, which shifts just fine, but it is focused more for efficiency. I was hoping that in sport mode that it would be tuned a little bit more aggressively so that it could feel more fun when you're driving in back roads. But if you want to have real fun, you're better off shifting this into the manual mode and then use the paddle shifters to shift the gears yourself. As for some of the driving features, one of my favorite features of this Volkswagen Arteon is the travel assist. And you could turn it on via this button that I mentioned earlier. Basically, it's a single button that turns on the semi-autonomous driving features. So it'll turn on the adaptive cruise control and also the lane keeping assist. This is very similar to Volvo's Pilot Assist or Nissan's Pro Pilot system. Rather than turning on the cruise control yourself and turning on the lane keeping system separately, this is just one button push and all of those features are turned on. And because it's super easy to use, you'll find that you'll be using it a lot. Now, would I recommend the Volkswagen Arteon? If you're looking for an attractive sportback style sedan that gives you plenty of storage, rear legroom, and decent luxury appointments, the Volkswagen Arteon is a pretty good choice. This is a really good looking car, and I rarely see it out on the road, which makes it even more attractive. And given all the driving aids and the amount of tech that you can find in here, this is really great to see in a vehicle that you can buy in the 2020s. Now, if rear legroom isn't as important for you, then this question is a little bit more tough because this SEL R line clocks in at about $45,000, which puts it in the crosshairs of the new redesigned Acura TLX. Now, I've reviewed the Acura TLX Advanced before, and you could have it for about the same price, maybe a little bit more expensive, but that Acura is far better in almost all aspects compared to the R-Line, except for rear legroom. Now, you should also consider the Hyundai Sonata N-Line, which is also very feature-packed and has a beefy motor, making it the most powerful and fastest Sonata Hyundai has ever made, but still delivered in a very bargain price. So what all of that basically means is that sedans aren't dead yet, and the competition is actually pretty stiff. So if you're a sedan lover, you've got plenty to choose from. Well, there you have it. That's my review of the 2021 Volkswagen Arteon. I want to thank you so much for watching all the way till the end. If you've learned something, please hit that like button, and also don't forget to hit that subscribe and notification bell button so that you can be notified anytime we make a new video. I'll wrap it up right there. My name's Hanson. This is the 2021 Volkswagen Arteon SEL R-Line, and I will see you next time.